Painting landscapes, expressively. I'm using this photo as a basis for my painting. First of all, I'm blocking in the rough shapes that I see. I've already started blocking in the sky, and the colours I used here are ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, Prussian blue, titanium white and raw umber. Then for the foreground, the landscape itself, I've used the same colours plus cadmium yellow and yellow ochre. So it's a very limited colour palette, just about 8 colours I think. And I'm, as you can see, just really roughly and very quickly mixing the colours and blocking in the shapes that I see. If you work fast, you don't really think too much about what you're doing, and your work will become much looser, more expressive, more gestural. So I'm not trying to replicate the photograph at all. I'm just using it as a basis, really. And things might change quite dramatically over the course of this painting. One thing I like to do is have a straight horizon. There's nothing worse than a wonky horizon, so I work on getting that reasonably straight. You often see little things in the distance on the horizon, so I'm not worried about the sort of lumps and bumps that I've got there. And as you can see, I'm constantly going over, using different marks, different angles, turning the brushes round. I'm using several different brushes. I'm using a bright, which is this square brush, and I'm using a filbert, which is a round-ended sort of flattish brush. And again, I'm going in to my palette on a regular basis, picking up colours, mixing them, all those 8 colours, not all together at the same time, but mixing them to get roughly the tones. I've got quite clear tonal values in the sky. That's the difference between light and dark. Not so much in the foreground, so I'll probably have to work on that. I'm not really too worried about when things go slightly wrong, like if a mark appears that I didn't maybe intend to be there. I think those mistakes usually make a painting. Now, as you can see, I've moved on quite a bit with this painting, and I've added into the foreground, I've added quite a lot of pure cadmium yellow and a little bit of yellow ochre, and I've made the paths a little bit more obvious. I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with the paths, but hey, we can all change that later on. And as you can see, I'm still working very quickly. I think I'm using a round brush here. I'm holding the brush right at the very end of the handle. That gives me much less control, and it just allows for looser, more expressive marks. I'm really feeling my way around this painting. I think if I was to compare it to the photograph now, there's elements of it that you can see, but it's quite different, I think. Yeah, but that's the whole point. Now, I realise that there's some sort of rain coming through at the clouds, so I'm using this fan brush to try and make that effect, but I wasn't happy with it, so I went back with another brush to try and get the rain effect, which, as you can see, didn't work. So I got out my trusty spatula, which I love. It's just a kitchen spatula, and it's always very handy for all sorts of expressive marks. So in this session, I feel as I've done as much as I want to do. I'd like to leave it now, let it dry, and then think about how I need to improve it. Let's compare it to the original photograph. As you can see, the original photograph is a different aspect ratio. By cropping the photograph of the painting at this stage, I can see what it would look like if it was the same aspect ratio. I'll have to have a think about that and see how I can resolve it at the next stage. So I'm going to leave this now and have a think about it overnight.